And here we go. All right, welcome everybody. Welcome to today's live workshop. We tried to build an AI Copilot, or you are rather going to build it. We have a little new tech setup today, and generally speaking, a new way of doing this. So if there are any hiccups or any other problems, stay with us, or also feel free to point it out if anything isn't working. If you can see and hear us, would be great if you can give us some feedback, thumbs up or a like or a comment. Use the chat when you have any questions, and then we will start in a minute. All good on your end, Dan?
Yeah, everything seems good. Is my audio all right?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Sweet.
I hope that's the same on the audience end, but I assume so.
We'll find out.
All right, let me just make sure all the destinations are working. It seems so. Then I would say we jump right into the content. So yeah, what we want to do today is show you a way how to build your own AI Copilot, meaning show you a way how you can really quickly prototype and MVP and demo and basically test Copilots or the capabilities of AI solutions like that, and figure out if that is something that can be useful in your organization, in your company, in your business. And yeah, what are the hurdles? What is our experience? And just want to share that with you, and yeah, literally go step by step through that setup process. So after this workshop, you will be able to build and run your own AI RAG demo. So just that you know what we're actually going to build, going to show you yeah, the end product or how it can look like depending on your use case, just so that you know what we're going to build today. So after this workshop, it probably won't take longer than an hour. You know how to do this by yourself.
Hi, this is Vanessa from Luigi's Italian Pizza Restaurant. How can I assist you today?
Hi, Vanessa. This is Simon. I want to make a reservation for Sunday, 6 p.m. for 4 people, if that is possible.
It looks like I encountered an issue checking the availability. I'll look into it further. Could you please hold on for a moment?
Yeah, sure. I'm waiting.
Simon, I'm sorry, but it looks like we don't have availability for 4 people at 6 p.m. on Sunday. However, I can offer alternative times. Would 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. work for you?
Yeah, 7 p.m. would be fine.
Great news, Simon. We have availability for 4 people at 7 p.m. on Sunday. Could you please provide your name and phone number to confirm the reservation?
Yeah, my name is Simon, and the phone number is 1234567.
Thank you, Simon. Your reservation for 4 people at 7 p.m. on Sunday has been confirmed. If you need anything else, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, one more question. We have 1 toddler. Can you accommodate for that? Is that okay?
Yes, we can definitely accommodate a toddler. We'll make sure there's enough space and provide a high chair if needed. Is there anything else I can help you with?
No, that's perfect. See you on Sunday.
Great. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday, Simon. Have a wonderful day. All
right. I hope that gives you some idea what you're going to be able to do after this workshop. Anything else to add from your side, Dan?
Yeah, I think just to drive home that there's a lot of jargon in this space right now. So like RAG, just to reinforce this concept of RAG, it just means retrieval augmented generation, which is another bit of jargon. Just imagine you hire a front office person and they don't know all the answers to every question that somebody's going to write to them or going to say when they walk through the door. And you give them an employee handbook and you say, this is how you deal with certain situations. When somebody asks you this kind of question, you can reference the manual and figure out what you need to say back in what order and in which order to collect information from somebody. So that's all we mean with RAG in this case, which is that instead of the model or the person knowing exactly how everything works, they understand how to talk to people, and then you can give them additional information via some cool things that we'll teach you how to do, so that it can reference how to do things, and then it doesn't have to know everything, but can still deliver value to the customer. Does that help kind of clarify things?
Yeah, I think so. So I think the main difference to like products like ChatGPT that you might know is literally what Dan just said. You can feed it with your information, with your specific data and your instructions, and therefore really tailor and build a custom solution for your use case. And yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today, or these are the different steps. So first, of course, we're going to talk about really quick what are the requirements that you need to build such product or build such a demo prototype that you just saw, which are really low requirements. Then step 2, and I think that might be the most important one, we really need to talk about, okay, how to define your use case. What Dan, for example, just showed, okay, that would be a more internal use case. The demo that we just saw would be more customer, so an outside-facing use case. So yeah, we really have different ways of using that kind of tool. Then step number 3, how to give it instructions for, and we will show you how to provide data that it can retrieve. Then step 5, test and iterate. And then, yeah, last but not least, Q&A. And as always, if you have any questions, if anything is unclear, feel free to use the chat function, the comment section, and yeah, we will try to answer all your questions live in this workshop. There should also be a way, if you want to be in the room with us, just join this workshop room, and then you can also share your screen if you want to really follow the steps live and have any issues. So yeah, we're really here to help you if you watch this live, and if you watch this as a recording. I hope it is helpful nonetheless. All right, requirements. What do you actually need to build something like you just saw, which is pretty simple? What we're going to use today is ChatGPT as the LLM model, and you need a Plus account for that, at least at the time of this recording. Of course, you need an internet connection, otherwise you're going to have some problems. And if you want to be able to talk to the product or to the demo, then you need the ChatGPT mobile app on your phone, although that would be optional. You don't need that necessarily now to actually build it. But if you want to try it later on with the voice option, then you need to install the mobile app on your phone. Anything else regarding the requirements, Dan? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, just an attitude of curiosity, because you never know how these systems are going to react the first time you start interacting with them, and it's just kind of a fun iterative process, like teaching a child how to think sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something that you can keep in mind when we get to the instructions. Like
Exactly.
really keep it super simple. I think there's this one video somewhere online where a father teaches his children how to make a sandwich, and they have to give him the instructions how to do it, and he follows them on the literal every instruction they give them. And of course they mess up all the time, just to showcase how hard it can be to write instructions that for you are obvious, but for someone else to follow, not that obvious. So yeah, first step before we get into all the technicalities, and maybe, as I said earlier, the most important step, and I think then we'll probably also elaborate a little bit on that, is really to hone in and make sure you have a very specific use case, or spend some time on thinking and defining your use case, because it can, depending on your industry, depending on your circumstances, be extremely different than the business across the street. So we just have some examples here that you will be able to use it, or that we saw in the past where it can generate quite great results. So what you just saw in the demo was basically customer support situation. Customer contacts your company, your organization, in what shape or form. In this case, for example, on the phone, needs some information, wants to ask a question, whatever it is. I think that's probably a use case that a lot of people have in mind. And also, we all know bad implementations when we have a phone system and we talk to a robot and don't really get what we actually want. So I think there's definitely room for improvement here. Then something that is a little bit more focused on the insides of an organization, and at least in my experience, super helpful, is anything regarding to onboarding, HR support, internal training, things like that, like Dan mentioned a little earlier, so that you have all that knowledge, all these questions that get asked constantly on maybe even a daily basis. You have that just in a database, your company concierge, company assistant, however you want to call it. And whenever you have a question, you can just ask your assistant. Then maybe a little bit, not so much on the operational level, but more on the strategic and executive level, when we talk about business intelligence, when you really want to or have to make decisions around your business strategy, about your business in general, and you need to have a good decision-making data, or data that you can base your decision-making on. I think business intelligence is something that is a little bit underutilized right now, but I see great potential there. Legal and compliance assistance. So my background is in finance, so therefore highly regulated industry. Where you don't know what you're doing, you can easily violate some regulation or some law. So I think especially if you are in an industry that has a high degree of regulation or policies that you need to follow, that can be a use case that might be interesting for you. And of course, last but not least, anything around marketing, sales, increasing revenue, and so forth. So I want to really encourage you, everybody listening or watching, to spend some time thinking about that, where that really can work inside in your organization, because that might be the most important part. But in the next steps, we want to show you, hey, how can you really quickly test and iterate your idea? Because I think that's something we need to have a little bit change in mindset, maybe, compared to in the past, or general project management approaches or innovation approaches, where we really want to know from the beginning, step by step, what is going to happen, what is the benefit that we get, what are the features that are built in, what is the cost that we have. It's very difficult to estimate that with a new technology like that. So I always encourage clients or everybody watching, listening, to test quick, figure out if things are working, if you get the results at least in the rough direction that you want, and if not, put it in the trash and try something new. So don't hesitate to experiment, is basically what I'm trying to say here. Yeah, your thoughts?
No, agreed. This is just about moving and testing and having fun with it, and not taking it too seriously at first, but then you might find something in it that you really enjoy and that is actually useful. So I think we should just jump into it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right, so the first step that we of course need to do is to go into your ChatGPT account, and we need to create a new custom GPT. So as we said earlier, we'll build all of that inside the ChatGPT framework or product. So step number one is when you look at the upper left corner, you have this window where you have usually just ChatGPT, and then a button below that says Explore GPTs. If you click on that button, then you should have now on the right side of your screen, right upper corner, also a button that says Create. And if you click on that, then you should be able to create your new custom GPT, and you should be on a page that should look something like this. So as you can see, you now can upload a profile picture if you want to. You can give it a name and a description so that everybody knows who's going to use that demo, what is actually going to do or what it is capable of. So just give it a name, short description, maybe even just a note for yourself that you know what you're trying to do here. And then after that, we get to the actual important stuff, which are the instructions. So that is basically where you tell, so think about that kind of product, or think about a, I don't know, freshborn baby, or an alien that just was dropped on this earth, doesn't know anything about what it is, what it
Maybe
can
an alien
do.
baby. Yeah,
an alien baby, exactly. Yeah. And you have to tell it now from the beginning who it is, what it can do, what its goal is, what its purpose in life is, and so forth. So this is the part where you tell the AI all the instructions that you want it to keep in mind and to follow. So for example, when we remember the demo that we saw earlier, this is how this one looks like. I just created with Dolly an image, gave it a name, gave it a short description. John Doe has contacted Luigi's Pizza Restaurant. This chatbot has access to the restaurant menu and booking calendar, so that everybody who's watching this demo knows what we're talking about. And then the instructions for the chatbot, the Copilot itself. Hey, here are the instructions, your role. Your name is Vanessa. You're the concierge of Luigi's, an Italian pizza restaurant. You're talking to people on the phone. Act accordingly. And of course, as you can see, there are much more instructions below that. But that's basically the starting point where you can start, or at least in my experience, where you should start with giving it instruction. Keep it super simple and basically start from zero. Anything else from your side, Dan?
Yeah, I can't take my eyes off of this avatar that you created. I mean, this does not look like somebody you'd talk to who works at a pizza restaurant. This looks like somebody who's trying to sell annuities to baby boomers. You know what I mean? Like they're wearing correct. A tie. I mean, you're not slinging pizzas, you're slinging derivatives. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can see that I'm not necessarily the most brand aware person here.
That's okay. No, I think it's fantastic. I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah. So you can keep the avatar, change the avatar, of course, like you want.
Would you like a credit default swap with your pepperoni pizza? I'm sorry.
Exactly. My finance background might came through here. That's true.
Yeah, that's totally makes sense.
Okay, so here are a few steps that you can follow by designing these instructions. So again, first step, define the role that you want to play, or that the AI is going to fulfill or to play. Then second step, define the goal. What is the actual goal that you want to achieve? Satisfy the customer, help someone learn something, answer questions, whatever it might be. Then, and I think we will talk about that a little later, clearly define your do's and don'ts. So if you know from your past interactions, hey, there are certain things that we don't want to do, or that this AI shouldn't do, make sure you have a clear outline in the instructions itself. Then what I found sometimes necessary, not always, but most of the time, is that you need to define how to use the knowledge bases that we will give it later on. So like, for example, in that kind of pizza scenario a restaurant scenario that we just had, like, hey, you have access to the pizza restaurant, to the booking calendar, to the policies, and so on. So that in my experience, that helps the LLM later on to get back to the data and pulls the correct data depending on the use case and the scenario. And then what can even help more is provide example interactions. So if you know that is, for example, a customer-facing application, then provide examples, how you want to greet people, how you want to talk to people, whatever you think is necessary. So these are really like very simple 5 steps that you can follow, and you will probably get, at least from my experience, great results as a starting point, and then you can iterate from there. Anything else from your side, then? Any experience, any do's and don'ts?
No other snarky observations.
All right. Okay, so now you have written your instructions. One thing that I found useful to increase performance a little bit is to now take these instructions, open another, for example, ChatGPT window, and just tell it, hey, transform these instructions into instructions that are easily readable by an LLM, and let it format it in a way that is useful. Sometimes, depending on your use case, you might even get some code base back, depending on the circumstances, and then take that, of course, check it, make sure the rules are still the same, instructions are still correct, and then take that and just copy and paste it back into the instruction window. And I found that can clear things up, and maybe this might be subjective, but even improve the response time a little bit. Tip number 2, especially if you plan to use it in a voice scenario, so that it be able to talk to people on the app, is that you should give it an instruction to limit the responses to a 30-second spoken output. Meaning sometimes you get a response back, and if it reads all of that loud or speaks all of that, it's talking for the next 2 to 4 minutes just to read all the text output. And if you keep it like that, it really keeps it in a conversational, keeps the conversation flowing, limits the responses. And you can always tell it, hey, if your response needs more elaboration or more time, just give a quick, concise response, and then ask if you should continue or elaborate more on that. But otherwise, you can really be, or the customer or the user can really be stuck in that kind of loop where you wait till it's your time to speak. So things like that, again, you have really test and figure out what works best. Therefore, again, what we said in the beginning, experiment with that kind of stuff, figure out what works for you, figure out what doesn't, and adjust accordingly. All right, second important step, third, we gave it a name, we told it, or we gave it instructions, told it what to do, what not to do. And now, what it actually gives it superpower is now we give it data. So now we give it the specific information that we want it to know that it can work with, that whenever we have a specific question, it can use that as a reference. And I can't stress that enough. Make sure, at least right now, and for the purpose of this demonstration, for this demo, don't use any confidential data. No emails, no database, no nothing. Always be aware everything that you put into ChatGPT gets sent to Microsoft and processed by them in a way that we probably don't know. So don't use any confidential data, only public available information, or just create fake data for the purpose of the demonstration and the demo. But again, don't use any confidential stuff or anything that you wouldn't also share publicly on your website. Okay, so how do you give it data? First, I want to make sure, first you need to make sure that you have all the capabilities checked or selected that you actually want it to be capable of. So that's probably at least web browsing and code interpreter and data analysis. Most of the time, you probably won't need DALL-E image generation, but again, depending on your use case, that might be the case. So just make sure you have checked the right boxes here. Again, for everybody who just joined, feel free to use the chat to ask any questions, any comment if I'm too fast, too slow, if you want to dive deeper into some point or if anything is unclear. That's why we're here. That's why we're doing this live. All right, so after you checked the boxes and make sure you have the right capabilities selected, now you need to actually upload or give it access to the data that you want it to use. And we try to keep it as simple as possible in this kind of scenario. So what I would recommend, and maybe Dan, you can expand a little bit what you used in the past, because I think you used some different methods. So I, for example, think or used primarily PDFs and CSV files in this scenario. So just PDF with the policy, with the menu for the restaurant, and then a CSV file for the calendar, for example. But it will also be able to yeah, basically use scans. So if you have old documents that you don't have in a digital form, it can also process that. But I think Dan can share a few more thoughts here.
Yeah, there's some really fascinating stuff that ChatGPT can do specifically. I'm not sure that any of the other models do as well, but the optical character recognition that's available in the ChatGPT interface is pretty incredible. And for example, for the demo that I built for this little get together, I took some really old paper scans from a homeowners association document that's been floating around for like 30 years, literally 30 years. So it's been scanned and printed and then rescanned like maybe 12 times. So some of the characters are really broken. And I used ChatGPT to OCR these documents and then to turn them into new PDFs, which I then fed into the knowledge base. So what's cool about this is if you work in corporate or any kind of enterprise, you know exactly what I'm talking about, where you have documents that are floating around that are just like ancient and unreadable. But these systems are so excellent that they can parse a lot of data out of old documents, especially if they're old scans that you've been kind of ignoring for a long time and you wish that you had these in a paper or a digital format. Rather, ChatGPT can help you with that, and then you can use it as the knowledge base for your custom GPT. Oh, Simon, you're muted, buddy.
I'm sorry. Yeah, agree. I think that's a great use case. Just use stuff that you have in paper form and can upload it here without any additional step. Just again, keep in mind, no confidential stuff, only data that you want to be publicly available.
If I can jump in on that too, because
Sure.
like the homeowners association documents that I used for this particular demo had a bunch of personally identifiable information in them. And I actually used ChatGPT to identify that information and then redact it from the documents. And it did a pretty good job. It got like 90% of the stuff, and then I went and manually did the rest. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that these tools can help you actually clean up data sets in a way that redacts personally identifiable information so that you can actually work with stuff that's clean in your RAG system. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, you could probably do it two ways. Like you would basically have a filter before you send anything out, like a LLM that runs on your local machine and redacts the data so that nothing goes out, and then you send it to to an open or to an LLM in the cloud or whatever.
Wouldn't that be fantastic?
Or you run it completely on your own machine and nothing goes out, which is something that will also be possible very soon. But right now, for simplicity reasons, you can really basically use any kind of information, data base, whatever, and just upload it here. It basically accepts almost any data format, JPEG, PDF, CSV files, and so on, that you can use to use as a knowledge base, and of course multiple files.
I haven't tried JSON payloads yet, like JSON objects yet, but I'm that's the next thing I'm going to try.
Yeah, you can also upload, as you said, like code if you want to. So there's basically really no limit. So as you can see here for the restaurant demo, we uploaded 3 files: the restaurant menu, including the restaurant policy with all the necessary information around the restaurant. Then we have the booking information or the opening hours one time in PDF format and one time as a spreadsheet, as a CSV file, which I also found helpful to, if it's a little bit more complex data, provide 2 different data sources or in 2 different formats. That sometimes can help to get you better results. So the system can just choose which source to use. Yeah, and then it's pretty much test and iterate and adjusting it to your use case and play around as long as you want till it actually works. Or again, what we would recommend, use that kind of tool to really quickly prototype, really try things out if they're actually useful, or to demonstrate some stakeholders, hey, this is something that we think could be useful. Can we get some budget? Can we get the green light here to experiment and to try some new things? We think that could be really beneficial. All right, that's it in a step-by-step process so far. If you have any questions, again, now is the time to ask them, put them in the chat, in the comment section. We should be able to see them no matter the platform. Anything you want to add from your side, Dan, or do you want to show your the demo that you built that is a little different than the one that I showed earlier?
Sure. Let me just figure out how to present my screen real quick. I think this might be interesting to just kind of demonstrate the concept of building an AI system that can read any document and then become kind of an assistant that can help you interpret the document. Because I think a lot of documentation that exists, whether it's like product documentation or a homeowners association CC&R package that you get when you move in, where they tell you all of the rules and regulations and bylaws and all that stuff, you get slammed with all this information, and then you don't really know how to interpret it. Some of it's kind of ambiguous, and you certainly don't want to read through 50 pages of stuff. Imagine being able to upload all of that stuff to a bot who now knows all this stuff for you, and you can just ask specific questions of it. And that's kind of the idea that I had here. And it was inspired by the fact that I just moved to Arizona, and I got a bunch of homeowners association documentation, and I was like, what can we do to simplify this data like ingestion process? So we can take a look at, like, we can go to the edit GPT settings here. One of the cool things about the creating a custom GPT from a prototyping perspective is that you can actually use natural language to describe what you think the bot should do. And it does a pretty good job of approximating configurations. But then you can go in and, configure it manually, which I did. Here's the instruction set that I gave it, which is pretty simple, but pretty straightforward, and some conversation starters. And I don't know if you remember what we were just talking about with the documentation, the actual documents that I scanned and then OCR'd and stuff. So these are the redacted documents. I don't need image generation for this one. I might need web browsing to look up regulations in Arizona or something like that. But that's kind of like how I set this guy up. And what we can do is we can actually mess with this a little bit real quick. So one thing that I think that the bot interpreted from the documentation, which I think is really interesting, is it read the documentation, and based on the tone of the documentation, in other words, these rules and regulations documents that I got, it actually kind of inferred what it thought the top 4 queries would be. If you were a person reaching out to an HOA association or an HOA agent rather, what would you ask about? And it actually came up with these 4 main requests. So I think that's really funny that it kind of inferred that a lot of people complain about noise. But there's another one which I know about personally because there's a lot of dogs where I live, and some of them are a little bit bigger than I think they're supposed to be. So I'll ask a question like that. I'll say, like, hey, I'm moving in and have a dog. Do you guys accept dogs? And I'm going to use kind of more colloquial type language, like improper formatting and maybe spelling errors, just to show you that this thing can handle such a wide variety of different types of natural language. So this is great. We do accept dogs, but there's some restrictions. Hey, so I have a pit bull. Is that cool? So it's interesting. So it actually gave you a little prompt that says, I'm searching my knowledge. Pit bulls may not be allowed. Weight maximum, he's definitely like 79 pounds, but he's a service dog. So is that okay? So I don't know if you noticed, but it's just like this this agent that we've created is being really cool. It's like kind of understanding. It's giving short, quick responses. It's being as thorough as it needs to be. And I think on audio, this would actually be really cool too, because you could actually, you could create a system where somebody could talk to this thing and get pretty good answers back. But these are the kind of questions that you're going to get. There's another thing that happens in complexes like this where people park in other people's parking spots. So let's just play with that real quick and see what happens. So, hey, I noticed somebody was parked in my parking spot. What should I do? So it gives you just a list of things that you can do. Which condo does parking spot 43 belong to? That's the one next to me. Let's see if it'll give you this information. Okay, it doesn't want to give you specific information, which is pretty cool. And that was based on a prompt that I gave it, so it's kind of holding to that. Okay, so let's ask another question. Let's, are there laundry facilities, or do I have to find a laundromat? Yeah, so this is all very accurate. I mean, I've read these CCNRs pretty well, so it's like it's giving really accurate information. Let's talk about HOA fees too. Can you tell me about HOA fees? Like how much per year and what's included? So it's going to actually go do a calculation, because this is this was in a table in a scanned document. So think about that for a second. There was a document that was scanned. It was a paper document. It was not digital at all, except for the fact that, in other words, it hadn't been optical character recognition. That hadn't gone through that process yet. So it made a table out of this, and then it was able to do a calculation, which is amazing if you think about it. Let's talk about, let's ask one more question just to kind of drive home how useful this can be. If I wanted to submit a maintenance request, what would I do? I think my dishwasher is leaking. So the cool thing is, one of the things that you can do with this system, if you want to get really fancy, is you can actually fire off API calls to whatever API you want to connect to. So you could actually turn this conversation into a support ticket and send it somewhere if you wanted to, which is amazing. So you could format this bot so that it would start to collect information from you and then put that into some kind of a document. And I think a JSON object would be probably the smartest way to do it. And then you're sending that wherever you want to send it, and you can actually update support tickets inside of the conversation too. So maybe next time we do this, we can build a demo that actually does that, which would be pretty awesome. But yeah, anyway, so this is kind of the little demo I put together to show that you can take random documentation that is really complicated, long, hard to read. Some of these documents are like 50 pages long and have a lot of legal stuff and lots of updates over the years that change the rules. And this thing will do a pretty good job of interpreting the latest set of rules. And then you can actually chat with the documents as if they're an assistant and get really good information back. So hopefully that was fun or useful to somebody. What do you think?
Yeah,
Simon?
we got a question from Russ.
Russ, what's up, man? It's great to see you.
Pretty practical question. How would you make this custom GPT front-facing to current residents or even potential residents? Is there something that can push this bot to the website or a social channel like Messenger or WhatsApp? Yeah, I think Dan can probably expand about that more in a minute. But
Sure.
yeah, there are basically a million ways how you could do that. There are probably some off-the-shelf solutions that you can use, or things like existing like WhatsApp and so on. You could also just implement it directly via an API or a Zapier bridge, something like that. But yeah, just in this scenario, it's really just for building the demo and demonstrating it and then testing it and iterating it. But yeah, then maybe you can expand a little bit more how to actually implement that, for example, on your website.
Yeah, so for this particular use case, if you wanted to get something up pretty quickly and you didn't want to involve a development team, you can probably do this with Zapier's new chatbot functionality. And or at the very least, you could create kind of the front end of the chatbot in Zapier, and then you could create a very simple API using something like Bubble. But the point is, there is actually off-the-shelf stuff that you could use to start having this conversation forward-facing. The cool thing about the chatbot interface on Zapier is that if you pay them a little extra, you can actually create, you can have that redirecting to a custom domain. So you could have, ArizonaHomeownersAssociation.com/assistant, and that would actually be the entire web page would be an interface that you could then talk to the bot with. So that is possible, and it is actually way easier than you'd think. It's just a matter of configuring it properly and making sure that if you do have to build an API or you do have to build a schema for an API, that's probably the hardest part if you're not technical. But there's people out there that can help with that kind of thing, and I'm one of those people, for example. So it's like, yeah, it's really actually a lot less difficult than you'd think to get this on a website.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that it's probably more time consuming to actually map out the process itself, develop the architecture for the use case, and then the implementation is probably, as you said, not that difficult because there are a lot of off-the-shelf solutions available?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think so. It's just like with any product, developing what you're trying to accomplish with it and what you're not trying to accomplish with it is the hardest part. And configuring it properly from the beginning, getting the right data into it in a way that it is consistently interpreting that data properly, like that's actually kind of the hard part. And then the rest of it's just like, it's amazing the tools that are available right now, like low code, no code tools to do this kind of thing.
Yeah, so thanks for the question. And if you're watching, keep them coming.
Yeah, Russ is the man. He's got a really cool community of AI people, and also he's got a great newsletter. So it's great to have you here, Russ.
So if there are any other questions, keep them coming. I just want to go really quick through the steps again, in case someone just joined, or just to recap really quick how you actually can build it by yourself. So again, requirements: you need ChatGPT Plus account, you need internet connection, and if you want to use it in a voice scenario, you need the ChatGPT mobile app on some phone or some device. Then again, very important, define your use case, really spend some time there, make sure you actually know what kind of problem you actually want to solve and not just build a cool fancy new tool. Then go into ChatGPT, click on Explore GPTs, then create your new GPT, give it a name, short description, a better avatar than I did. And then, of course, the first very important part, the instructions, make sure you have them as clear outlined as possible. Yeah, 5 steps that I usually recommend is define the role, define the goal, then define the do's and don'ts, define the use of the knowledge base so that the LLM knows what it actually knows, and then provide some example interactions that you want it to follow. Then take these instructions and let them refine, or let another LLM, maybe ChatGPT, refine it, just edit it a little bit so that it's easier to understand for another LLM. That might result in some code output. Just copy and paste everything and put it back into your instruction field. Again, test and iterate to try to figure out what works best here. Sometimes it's super simple things. For example, when you're talking, or when we look at the calendar, changing the word date and time to day and time made it work, and with date and time for some reason it had problems. So really test and figure out what works best for you. Then, especially when you try to use it in a voice scenario, tell it to limit the response time to 30 seconds if it's speaking, just to keep a conversational tone and not keep it talking for 3-4 minutes. Then especially when we're talking about a prototype or an MVP or a demo like that. Don't use any confidential data. If you plan to use confidential data, make sure you have an architecture or a system to make sure that is protected and doesn't get out either through a reduction process first, or you keep the whole architecture, the whole LLM on your machines, on your servers, whatever you use. But in general, for this demo, don't use any confidential data. Then select the capabilities that it actually needs. Sometimes it doesn't need all of them. Sometimes it does, but make sure you have the ones selected that you need. Then upload the files. As Dan explained, you can almost use any data source that you have available. It can be some notes on a paper block that you just scan and upload. It can be a PDF, can be JPEGs, it can be whole Excel files, CSV files, and so on. And of course, you can also connect it via API to a database or to anything else, but that would be a little bit too much for this workshop today. And then from there, it's really test and iterate. Give it some conversation starters. Just if you show it other people, you can, you know what works and can use that to demonstrate the capabilities. Then, of course, you see the knowledge base again, what you actually have uploaded. And that should give you all the tools and all the steps to be able to build something that is working, at least to some degree, probably in an hour, and is actually able and usable. All right, anything else from your side then, or anything else from the audience, anybody watching, listening? If you have any questions, again, use the chat or the comment functions. We'll probably be here for a few more minutes.
Yeah, just I have one bit of insight that I'd like to share just about how to bring this down to earth even further. Like if you're a consultant or you're even somebody's boss. This is crazy how extensible this is, because if you have any kind of inbox that you're getting lots of like questions from people about, whether they're employees or like potential customers or whatever, you can go look in your inbox and see there's 50 questions about this very specific thing. I keep having to answer this question over and over again. It's really funny, but there's going to be this shift, I think, towards building interactive knowledge bases for these kinds of interactions, where it's like we keep getting, we're a company, we're a design agency, and we keep getting questions about this specific thing. Do you guys do logos? And if so, how does that work? Or whatever the question is. Imagine building a custom GPT or something of this nature. It doesn't have to be on ChatGPT, but it can be something like this, where you've compiled a list of the 10 most frequently asked questions that you get in your inboxes. And you just send people to that and say, hey, everything you need to know is here. In the old days, that was a website. You send somebody to a frequently asked questions page, and then they'd have to read through 50 different lines of questions, and hopefully they find the one that they like. Imagine turning a frequently asked questions page into an agent that can answer questions for you in the way that you would like to interact with the page. So it's like this kind of breaks linear interfaces, linear page-based, document-based interfaces. And I think that I'm going to be testing it on my site. I'm going to be testing it with some clients, which is how open is the market and people who are interacting with websites, how open are they going to be to actually just asking the question they want instead of scrolling through, like doom scrolling through some page to try to find that frequently asked question. So consider that that use case and that opportunity, which is to, if you're having trouble coming up with an idea for how to use this, or if you don't know what data to feed it, just go find the 5 emails that you never want to respond to again and turn those into documentation and feed it to a custom GPT. And then you'll have an agent that can kind of tell people all that stuff on your behalf, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, I think the potential time savings here are enormous. I think especially another use case, which is kind of related to what you just described, the whole onboarding and training process. If you think how much time it usually takes to bring a new employee or a new team member up to speed, usually talking about months here, and a lot of that time is just, let's say, wasted by trying to figure out where I get the actual information. What is the process here? Where do I have to go for this? Who I have to ask for that, and so forth. Maybe you even need one person that trains the newcomer in using the tools or where to find what. And now this person also is less productive. And if you can condense all that stuff, just upload it in some database and say, whenever you have a question, new employee, just go here. We have a process that follows you through anyway and helps you to get on board and get you up to speed and productive as quick as possible. And if you have any question or anything unclear, this is where you go, and you don't, as you just said, then you don't have to read through documents to get actually an answer to your question that might be quite simple, but can potentially take you hours to figure out. So I really like use cases in that area where just the time wasted with malicious tasks that could be avoided, I think. Yeah.
Simon, you're sounding really German right now. Really German.
Yeah, can't help myself. I think the strive for efficiency. All right. Any final thoughts or any more questions from the audience? Anything that we didn't touch on, or anything that you would like us to touch on in the future? Anything that we might be able to answer today, or any future topics? Again, if you watch that as a replay, feel free to use the comment section. Try to monitor that also in the future. If you have any input, any ideas for topics, or any question that you always had around the whole topic that we talked about today.
I really liked Russ's question because it's very practical. Like, how do you get this out of the ChatGPT interface and into something that actual customers could use? And it's kind of inspiring me to think about how, if I was going to make a tutorial on how to do that using various methods, like what would that look like? And I think that's something I'm going to check out over the next week. Like, how could I help people understand how to get these conversations into the hands of actual real life customers using your own website, using a landing page, using Telegram or WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever, or channels that people are already using. Because it's all possible. It's just a matter of how do you connect the dots, and maybe that's a cool thing to teach people how to do next time.
Yeah, I agree. So let us know if you like that kind of practical approach, how to use stuff, if you would like to learn more about that in the future. If you have any suggestions, again, feel free to put that in the comments and let us know. Feel free to reach out and connect with us on LinkedIn. It's probably the best way, at least for me, or of course to visit our respective websites if you have the need for it. Any final thoughts from you then before I think we can finish it for today?
No, I think this has been fun, and I think these demos were pretty cool, and I look forward to hearing from anybody who wants further clarification or wants to build their own thing. I'm just all about building stuff right now. So
great. All right. Same here. I hope that was helpful. Let us know. Use all the comments and thumbs up and whatnot to let us know how you like that kind of content and that kind of information. Feel free to reach out to either one of us if you have any more questions, if you want to dive deeper into that with your organization. And till then, I hope to see you next time, and I wish you a great day. See you soon. Bye-bye.